I've had a few comments asking me to make a tier list for the items in IS. Yesterday I gave it a thought and... nah, that would make one boring video. This item gives you more damage than this item over and over for 30 minutes. Though there are a few items that are much stronger than you might think, and maybe they deserve a video covering them. But covering every single item in IS seems like a waste of time. While I was mulling it over, I realized something. IS has a lot of dog shit items. Let's whine about a few of them. IS2 has mostly bangers like the Chalice and the Old Fan, pretty strong item pool overall, but it also has a set of items so ass that I know multiple people who actively metagamed to avoid unlocking them. In order to grasp how trash these items are, let's put ourselves in the mind of a new player. You haven't played the game for long, but you have a bunch of 6-star snipers leveled up to carry you. You start playing IS2 for the first time, you get a pretty good run, and get all your snipers to carry you here as well. After you finish the run, you unlock a new item for using 5 snipers in your squad. What could the new item be? When you get a sniper ticket, you get to pick some other class instead of a sniper. Yes, by only using snipers, you've unlocked the ability to pick stuff that aren't snipers. The effect itself isn't that terrible, the counterintuitive unlock is irritating but acceptable. The real problem is that there's fucking 8 of them. You constantly get it in shops, and when you get it for a class that you would pick anyway, like a guard or a sniper, they're just wasting an item slot that could have been something useful instead. If 2 classes were paired so there's only 4 of them, it would be a much better item. Luckily, it seems AG learned from this item and applied it to the paired books that came out in the expansion. Speaking of the expansion, I get to shit on an item that is rather well liked next. The Zombie Cane. It's a meme item turning all your healers into incantation medics, but all it does is turn excess healing into arts damage. There's 2 problems that make this item extremely underwhelming. First, it scales based on the healing your operators do. In terms of numbers, your damage numbers are bigger than your healing numbers, and enemy health is much higher than your operator health. So what would be a massive heal to your operators would be minor damage to enemies, and then it's reduced by enemy res, so you end up doing very little damage. The second and much bigger problem is that the healing needs to occur for the item to do damage. If your operators are at full health, you don't get damage out of it. So strong medics end up getting proportionally less from this item. You can build a team around this item, particularly with Reed's talent double dipping on the healing, but you'll just get a better result by buffing Reed's damage with extra arts damage or something. The left and right eye of the narrator. The item itself is extremely underwhelming, but that's not why it's here. No, it's here because the only way to get it is through one of the most dogshit encounters in the game. You can pay 1 life point to get the left or right item. The catch? You don't get to pick. You have a bunch of snipers and want a minor buff to their attack? Fuck you, you're gonna eat that caster buff and you're gonna like it. Speaking of bad encounter items, 10% extra attack, health and defense for 5 DP. Have fun deploying your 32 DP Texas Outer with that 10% extra attack, I guess. Finally, for the IS2 items, we have this umbrella. Classic mix of hard to activate condition and an underwhelming effect. Things that can block 3 enemies also have a tendency to not die, so it's a defensive item that only benefits your most defensive operators, but only sometimes. If you kill enemies too fast, it stops working too. IS4 has a similar item that lets you retain the buff for 30 seconds while giving a far stronger buff, and it's still a so-so item. Of course, that's mainly because blocking 3 things on higher IS4 floors usually means you're about to die horribly, but you at least have some dodge on your way out. On to IS3. The first item actually comes from IS2, but it's a decent item there, while a fucking horrible item in IS3. Yeah, you know the one. Sui's Wrath, more commonly referred to as dog's shit. This is a cute effect that does a lot of stacking damage with fast redeploys, but it just has so many problems in IS3. First, you have the mimic chests. Wake one up with it before you're ready, you're dead. The stupid flowers on higher floors. You ever want to instantly lose bonus Omnia? Well, now you can just deploy literally any operator anywhere. On top of that, IS3 enemies all have 85 quintillion res, so you're not even doing good damage with it. Actually that's it for IS3. The item pool there is pretty good. Maybe I could complain about the ring and the banner, but man does it feel good when they save your run. I've said multiple times that IS4 is my favorite IS. I like IS4 so much I still play it, as IS6 is just around the corner. I'm gonna play some more IS4 later today. Even so, I can't deny IS4 has by far the worst item pool in any IS. The number of dogshit items that don't do anything is ridiculous. And then when we got an expansion that increased the difficulty, we got an entire batch of worthless items to make it even harder. Minoan Ode, the ad for Turkey's favorite vacation spot. once you beat an emergency, you get up to 3% extra max health. What? This isn't fucking IS-5, how are you gonna fight 15 emergencies? What the fuck? Maybe somehow you manage to get 15 fucking emergencies in IS-4 and somehow get every other terrible IS-4 relic so you don't have a super god run and actually care about your health. In this case, this fully stacked item will give you less health than the generic HP increase relic. This is what happens when you put Sui's Wrath in a backpack. A dogshit backpack. 60% attack after a negative status. Yeah, just one small problem. Almost nothing in IS-4 gives you the right kind of negative status. It doesn't work on elemental procs like Necrosis, it only works from shit like Cold or Stun. Pretty much all it's good for is Emergency Ending 1, Ending 4 and one random floor format. As for Ending 4, is it a good idea to have all of your operators nuked with a stun that will probably also kill them, just to gain a 60% attack buff for a bit? Now we're asking the hard questions. Ah, the garbage protocol. Now this one is just next level. IS-4 is all about rushing you down with a bunch of fast enemies. DP is a constant struggle, and then this item comes in and tells you, psst, if you AFK for 2 minutes, I'll give you an HP buff, but I'll turn it off the moment you deploy anything. Yeah, thanks, but I'd rather have that 15% increased physical damage on my Myrtle. Do you enjoy killing ambushers with Myrtle's module, by the way? I sure do. If you do as well, come get your Palm Top Pavilion, and now your ambushers will get to die to random enemies, even without Myrtle's help. Okay, before I shit on it, I have to say, this is a fucking awesome item. Copying the equipment 5 times is funny as hell, and I'd really wish we had more stupid items like this in IS. The reason it's bad is mostly because equipments aren't that strong in IS, so copying them 5 times doesn't produce a particularly great effect. A few extra mines, a slightly bigger stun bomb, SP devices charging other SP devices for no reason, nothing that's actually helpful. Sadly, this item would be far stronger if it just gave you an extra device you could use. It's a fun idea though. I would love a reworked version of this item that actually upgrades the equipment from the weak normal effects to something insane. Like the landmines just start cutting down true damage cannon shots, the barrier just turning into a roadblock, that sort of shit. Let's hope we get something like that in IS-6. Here it is. My nemesis. It hurts. It hurts. It's killing me to say it, but this item isn't that bad. That was nasty. It has a 30% chance to give you 5% extra attack and defense after every fight. Stacking it all the way up to 10 is unrealistic, but 4 or 5 stacks is still a 20-25% stat buff, which is pretty strong for such a cheap item. Really wish the percent chance was slightly higher, so it was conceivably possible to stack this thing up. I've never once managed to get it to 10 stacks, no matter how many fights I took. Ursus Blade is garbage, I got nothing to say, it's just boring. All the XP items suck to begin with, but if you aren't leaking, the first time you will have 2 collapsal buffs is on floor 4, so the Ursus Blade only matches the weakest other XP item when you're halfway through the run already. Damn, finally done with IS-4 items. There's only a few useless items in IS-5. The thing that gives you max HP in face-off nodes. Do people use melee operators in face-off nodes? I wouldn't consider this a bad item in any other IS, and mostly I'm just salty I always get it at the end of my runs. The eye patch stacks slowly and caps at only 50%. It seems like a heavily nerfed blade dance item. That would be fine, except IS-5 has 3 other types of blade dance. The actual blade dance, the weaker blade dance which always lands on the highest DP operator, and the inspire that gives blade dance to 3 operators. Compared to that, this one just seems wimpy. And finally, the item that inspired me to make this video. Yeah, I know it's a quest item, I don't give a shit. In order to get ending 2 in IS-5, you need to forge an item that increases your operator's DP cost. You can do this right before the boss fight if you don't want to deal with the increased DP cost earlier. But if you craft it earlier, you have a chance of getting a special encounter. One of the options in this encounter is Amiya's 10 rings. What does the item of our poster girl do? It reduces the health of Terezi's shadow clones. The shadow clones that have 0 defense and die in 3 seconds to Myrtle. Yeah, those shadow clones. The ones that aren't used in phase 2, which is the actual challenge of the fight. Yep, exactly those ones. This item is so ass you are unironically making the fight harder by picking it up, because you could have had something useful instead of this trash encounter, and you make the path of getting here harder. And that's all the items that annoy me in IS. Would you like me to make a list of strong items that people might be undervaluing as well?